Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, with the Raiders news that you need to see today. The NFL owners' meetings are underway, and Pete Carroll and John Spytek spoke to the media. I'll tell you what both of our GM and head coach had to say. At the very end of today's show, I'm also going to give you the latest on Hunter Renfrow, because I know a lot of people have been asking me about it. The way that I'm going to start this show, though, is with Geno Smith, and I'm not going to sit up here and say we got like a big update. Essentially, Pete Carroll was asked about where the Raiders are at currently with Smith after trading for him all the way back on March 7th. And reminder, it was reported that the Raiders and Smith were going to get a deal done, and it was reported that that deal was going to end up getting done before March 16th, which was a certain deadline with Geno's contract. The reason why that there are some people hitting that panic button is because when you think about the original report from the Raiders beat writers, that is obviously very off. But then when you see where we are at right now, there's no need to hit the panic button. And I think it's kind of why Carroll said the way that he did. Like, we're working on it. And we know that the Raiders are working on it. We know that the Raiders would have never even made the deal for Geno Smith unless that the actual plan was to give him a long-term deal, because that was one of the biggest reasons why Geno wanted to get out of Seattle, because they weren't willing to offer him a brand new contract. So some of the other notes that I saw here that, quite frankly, I almost thought were more important than the Geno Smith talk, and I get it. Geno's always going to make the headlines because he's the quarterback, but there were a lot of really other interesting things that Carroll said. One of the first things that he said that caught my attention was he thinks that this Raiders team already through free agency has got better than last year, and that might be a bit of an eye roll to some people out there, and it might be to, some people going, well, Mitch, what do you expect Pete Carroll to say? I expect Pete Carroll to tell me the truth, and maybe that's an unfair thing for me as a Raiders fan to want, but I also agree with Carroll's statement. I know that we've lost a lot of pieces on the defensive side of the football, losing out on Roberts Blaine, Trevon Merrick. We've talked about it a million times. But the one thing that's true, the Raiders are better right now than what they were last season, and it's because you upgraded at the most important position out there. You upgraded at the quarterback position. Geno Smith is the best QB that the Raiders have had probably since 2016 Derek Carr. For that reason, you are better now and where the Raiders were at this time last season. We still got free agency. Not a lot, is going to happen, I think, in that realm. But we still have the NFL draft, which the Raiders are really looking at. Let's also talk about some of these secondary players. And anytime I hear Carroll talk about secondaries, my ears perk up a little bit, right? The light bulb goes on, because that's kind of his skill set. His big thing that he always did in Seattle was he got the most out of his young secondary players. And when I think about the moves that the Raiders made this offseason in terms of building to that secondary, I am going to consider Isaiah Paul-Lamau, who they brought back on a 2-year, $8 million deal. Jeremy Chin, Lonnie Johnson Jr., Eric Stokes, and Darnay Holmes. When Carroll was asked about these players, it wasn't that he was asked individually. He just said that there was a lot of excitement there in the secondary. I'll be real with you. The only players that give me a lot of excitement, I want to see how Isaiah Paul-Lamau grows, because that's the Raider fan in me, and he's gotten better and better and better every year that he's been in the league since being a UDFA. Jeremy Chin's the big name on there. Eric Stokes is the big name on there. To me, you look at somebody like Lonnie Johnson Jr., depth piece, special teams roster guy. Darnay Holmes, depth piece, somebody you're not really going to see on the field all that often. But Stokes is going to go out there and compete with DeCamerion Richardson. He's going to go out there and compete with Jack Jones. He's going to go out there and compete with another young man in Ja'Cory and Bennett, and that's what they're going to try to get the most out of. But from what they said there in the secondary, I was interested to see what Carroll had to say. And then this is the little bit of an alarming statement that Carroll made, and, kind of Spytek said something that made me a little bit nervous. Earlier last week, I said a statement along the lines of, if I was the Raiders, I would use Devin White and let him be an athlete. Let him pin his ears back. Let him be great, because when you have him next to somebody like Elandon Roberts, you need somebody that I felt like can cover. But what Pete Carroll ended up saying was he liked the linebacker signings. He likes what Elandon Roberts is going to be able to bring to the table. He's a leader, and you hear very often Carroll and Spytek are saying, like, I like these moves because of this reason, and I think a lot of the reasons why they're liking the moves is you're able to go out and get a good player at a discounted price that they think can help build this for the long haul. Carroll also, obviously said that with the linebacker additions, that is Elandon Roberts, that's Devin White. Spytek was the person that went into a little bit more detail on what he thought the role of Devin White could be on the Las Vegas Raiders, which I'll get to here in a little bit, because in terms of the way the Raiders are going to use Devin White, I would say you have to see what Spytek has to say, because I'm telling you this right now. If you're on my board when you saw the Raiders sign White, you're probably not as excited as what some other people out there. If you think that he's good enough to be a starting linebacker, then you definitely need to see what Spytek had to say today. First of all, let's get into the 4 things, because Spytek, when he spoke to the media, had 4 really big outline things that I would say are going to catch a lot of attention out there, and there's going to be some news, there's going to be some rumors circulating around it. The first thing that Spytek kind of dove into was the interior offensive lineman battle. And when you think about the interior offensive linemen that the Raiders have, the 4 names that he really paid a lot of attention to were Jordan Meredith, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Dylan Parham, and Alex Cappa. Alex Cappa was signed this offseason to a 2-year, $12 million deal, though when you look at it, it's really like 1 year, 5.5. I think a lot of people, including myself, assume that Jackson Powers-Johnson is going to be the center, but based on what the Raiders GM said today, I don't know if that's going to be the case. He said that right now the Raiders are looking at 4 guys to play either left guard, right guard, your offensive guard positions. That's JPJ, Dylan Parham, Alex Cappa, Jordan Meredith. In terms of who is going to play and compete at center, it's between JPJ, Parham, and Meredith on top of that. Spytek did make it seem like left guard, center, and right guard are up for grabs, and there's going to be a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of moving parts with that. But like, I sit up here and I'm just going, I just feel like JPJ is gotta be the center. And I don't want to hop into a time machine like we did last season and kind of have this debate over and over and over again going, JPJ's better than Andre James. JPJ makes this Raiders offensive line the best it possibly can at center. That's why I am hoping that he ends up being the center. However, though, based on Spytek's comments, that's not set in stone yet. Vic Tafur reported today that center is not set in stone yet. And it's March, right? I'm recording this on March 31st, and I understand that nothing's really set in stone. April's got to happen. The draft's got to happen. OTAs, minicamp, the entire offseason process has to happen. But if the Raiders were to play a game right now, do you think Jackson Powers-Johnson would be the starting center? Give me a yes, give me a no. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. I am going to sit up here and say yes. I know what Spytek said, and I think that Spytek did a really smart job of kind of tiptoeing around the question without giving a final answer. The more versatility you have on your offensive line, the more different pieces that you can go. Speaking of one of those pieces on that line is right tackle, and Spytek was asked today about what the Raiders' plan is of what they're going to be doing at that right tackle spot. His initial answer was DJ Glaze, and he said it as along the terms of DJ Glaze is the starting right tackle as of now, which everybody watching the show right now goes, yeah, of course DJ Glaze is the starting right tackle right now. But that's not really how the question is being asked, right? Like, you're not asking John Spytek, who's the Raiders' right tackle now? You're asking, is DJ Glaze going to be the starting right tackle week 1 of the NFL season? Spytek did hint that he could use one of his 9 picks on offensive line in the NFL draft. Basically, he was like, DJ Glaze is the right tackle, but we have 9 picks in the NFL draft, leaving anything up there for chance. Here's one of the things that he said, though, right? And I know a lot of the OGs that watch this show, I probably use somebody a little bit more of the unconventional 6th overall pick going, it could be Will Campbell. It could be Armin Membu, because I know for a fact how much Spytek loves to build in the trenches, and he literally said in this quote, he goes, DJ Glaze, I could potentially use one of my 9 draft picks, and then he also kind of like smirkingly joked, said, you know I love offensive linemen, which to me, that's Spytek putting everything on the table saying all options are possible. DJ Glaze is a good right tackle, but if you can get better at your offensive line, if you can get better in any position in the NFL, you got to try to go out there and do it. Let's now go to the free agency plan, because it was reported by every Raiders beat writer that the Raiders are going to be super, super aggressive, and myself included wasn't expecting them to go out and spend a lot of money. Now, they still have a lot of money to go out there and spend, but Spytek said that this offseason was robust, and when you go back and look at just how the Raiders spent money this offseason, they haven't gone out there and spent the big-time paycheck. They went out and, as Spytek said, did a intelligently aggressive approach, which was, we did our homework, we were interested in players, but if teams were going to overspend and outbid us, then that was just going to be an L that we were willing to take. Because that happened time and time and time again on a lot of the players the Raiders were looking at, the Raiders had to pivot their interests. They had to pivot from their plan, and that's what the Raiders did. But when you see a lot of the moves that the Raiders made, it looks like they did a lot of pivoting. And when I say pivoting, I think that's like in a Elandon Roberts, right? A Devin White, a I think along the lines of an Alex Cappa, I think could even be a little bit of a pivot. But Eric Stokes, all these type of moves, I think the Raiders had somebody in mind, but because somebody overpaid, they had to pivot and then go, as they said, intelligently aggressive on that route. Coming up next here, though, on the show, I want to get into that linebacker plan around Devin White because I'm not going to lie to you. It's kind of scaring the shit out of me. And then even on top of that, I'm going to give you more updates around Hunter Renfrow because his name was brought up today at the NFL owner meetings. Before I get into that, baseball is in full swing, and PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. Springtime, it's here, and if you're like me, I'm always down to watch some sports. But because springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway, don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks lineups. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. On PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So I wanted to be able to show you guys what our season-long baseball is here for PrizePicks, but as I said earlier, and I used to do this a lot during football where I used to always go first 2 catches, more or less, first 5 rush attempts, more or less. I love doing that because in today's day and age for me, to sit down and watch an entire game, it's not always easy to do unless it's the Raiders, right? But if I'm just going to be sitting around watching a baseball game, if you want to go more or less on 1 inning for runs, that to me is something that I love to be able to do because I'm sitting there going, all right, well, shit, I got 10 to 15 minutes. Let's watch an inning of baseball. Let me see if I can put some money in my pocket. If that's kind of your mindset, then I definitely think that now's the right time to get started with PrizePicks. And download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. The second half of the basketball season also is here, so you're going to be able to push to the playoffs, which is heating up. PrizePicks is the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. So a shout out to them, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Let's go to the Raiders linebacker plan now because I know I mentioned earlier what Pete Carroll had to say about Elandon Roberts, Devin White, and was more of just a generic, yeah, I like the moves that we made. What Spytek had to say is eye-opening because one of my statements was, the Devin White move will be good if you let him be an athlete, let him be an edge, and you don't make him an every down linebacker. Based on what Spytek said today, kind of makes me seem like right now our starting 2 linebackers are Elandon Roberts at your middle linebacker, and then he said that he likes the idea of Devin White as your weak side linebacker. I'm sorry, if you're the Raiders and you're planning on rolling out Elandon Roberts and Devin White as your top 2 main linebackers this season, that's going to be an issue. And it's going to be an issue in the coverage game. You better hope that that secondary that you got is legit, and you better damn well hope that you're able to get pressure with 4, and you better damn well hope that you're leading the team in you're leading the NFL in sacks, or else it's going to be a long, long year. Here's the exact quote from Spytek. Outside of Von Miller, Devin White's 2020 playoff run was the greatest I've seen. He's a great dude, and we're going to give him a chance at a resurgence. I understand that he's got a great relationship with Devin White, and he's not totally wrong saying that back in 2020, Devin White was one of the best defensive players in the NFL. The problem is, though, if Spytek, are we still living in 2020? You know what I mean? Like, he had very similar comments about Alex Cappa. Now he's saying this about Devin White. I am not the same as what I was in 2020. Chug's not the same as he was 2020. The Raiders aren't the same. Players aren't the same. And I get that you have a good relationship with the dude, but when I hear the term resurgence and I hear him say we like Elandon at middle and we like Devin at weak side linebacker and we're trying to give them another shot, I'm not in the position to give players another shot. I'm in the position to win football games. I'm in position to put the best product out there on the field, and I am really concerned with this linebacker room. And I get it. There's still the NFL draft. And I am hopeful, based on a lot of the conversations that I've reported already on this show, that the Raiders are going to look at going out and addressing the linebacker position at interior linebacker. But then there is also that part of me going, man, oh man, if they really think that Elandon Roberts and Devin White are good enough to be 2 linebackers, you're looking at the worst linebacker unit in the NFL, and I don't know if it's all that close. Coming up next here, though, let's talk about Hunter Renfrow, because I got asked this one a bunch over the weekend. So So Renfrow visited with the Raiders on Friday, March 28th, and Renfrow had a visit with the Carolina Panthers last Wednesday. The Raiders were his second visit, and he does plan on visiting other teams. There is a chance that the Raiders could sign him based on what was reported. There is nothing urgent at this current moment, but there is some interest from Renfrow, and there is some interest from the Raiders side. Here's what Spytek had to say on signing third and Renfrow. We were just visiting and checking in on him. I'll just say he is a really good spot now where he wants to continue his career. We would be remiss if we didn't think about it. The Raiders have been looking around at a wide receiver for quite some time this offseason, right? It was reported that they're looking for a true number one. Then there was rumors around DK Metcalf, rumors around basically all these other different types of receivers. And every time, we've heard Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen, there was stuff around Stephon Diggs. The Raiders are clearly in the wide receiver market. And after a visit with Renfrow, I think it definitely, locks into that. The problem that I think Raiders fans have with Renfrow is there was a select group of people that are still kind of living back there with Spytek in the year 2020, 2021, where they're going, oh, Renfrow's going to be a 100-catch guy as long as he's healthy. I think there is somewhere in between of Renfrow ended up not playing last year because he wasn't healthy and he wasn't very good, which is also tied with McDaniels was the problem on top of wasn't the best fit in the offense. But my question to the nation is, we already have Brock Bowers, you got Jacoby Myers, and our wide receiver room is light, no doubt about it. But if, let's just say, and the Raiders go out and they sign Renfrow, how many catches do you expect from Renfrow this upcoming season? Are you somebody that's going to sit up there and go 50, 60? Are you someone that's going to sit up here and go, I think he's going to get 30? Or if you're like Mitch, I don't even know if he's going to make the 53-man roster. My answer is going to be coming up right here in just a moment. For me personally, I'm going to say for Hunter Renfrow, if he ends up signing to the Raiders, then obviously money talks, right? If it's a one-year deal worth up to $3 million, I'll probably say he's probably going to be around 20, 25 catches is kind of where I would put him. If you're telling me, though, it's a bigger deal than that and the money's in the $7 to $8 million range, I would say that then they're going to expect a bigger roll out of him, and I'd probably go about 30 to 35. But I don't know how anybody out there can predict anything higher than that, considering the fact that Renfrow did not play last season. And the last time that we did see Hunter Renfrow, we got to be honest with ourselves, he wasn't a good receiver in 2023. He wasn't really a good receiver in 2022. You can put blame on McDaniels, and he does deserve some blame. But to say that McDaniels was the reason why Hunter Renfrow failed, not even me. Yeah, I'm not even going to go ahead and say that. He's got to be healthy, and if he's healthy, we know that he can be a decent receiver at this point. Before I end today's show, though, there was some, interesting NFL news, and there was just in regards to new additions, the NFL international marketing rights in 2025. The Raiders are in Australia, and now also on top of that, New Zealand, which essentially means if there are NFL games in those areas, the Raiders could be one of the top teams in terms of priority that could get it. We know that Raider Nation spreads far and wide. We always say it, and that's how I'm going to end today's show. I want to know, since they're in New Zealand, since they're going to Australia, we always say shout out your city. I want you to shout out your country. Are you rocking here in the U.S. with Chugs and I? Are you in Mexico? Are you over there in the U.K. with Martin? Are you in Australia? Are you in New Zealand? If you made it this far in the video, shout out your country down below. I want to see how far and wide the nation spreads.